Day 7 of the 7 days of success strategy. It is our final day on this particular training. So I'm excited to be here and glad that you are here as well. Glad that we will be sharing these moments together. So in just a second here, I want to just start off, open up with a brief prayer, and we'll get rolling into tonight's talk and share together. But I am appreciative of you being here. Thanks for the love that you are showing. I appreciate it greatly. So good to see you. T Blue, good to see you. Rick Callie, T Blue again. All right, fantastic. All right, so let's open up with a brief word of prayer and let's jump into tonight's training. Father, thank you for this day and this opportunity to be here with everyone that is here, both those that are live, those that will be joining on Team Replay. Thank you for all of them being here and joining in this moment together. I pray that you would bless us to grow, develop, learn, so that we can launch our lives into this next phase of life, start this new chapter in this new year with a strategy and plan for having success, for fulfilling our purpose and calling in the world. I pray blessings upon each one. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we've been together all week long, first 7 days of this 2023 year, and we've been talking about strategies that would move us forward, how we can go from simply thinking about and dreaming about wanting to have changes in our life to actually how do we move into that and what it is that we need to do. And so with that, I've been sharing from the book of Genesis, and you might not be a Bible person, but that's all right, because there are some clear-cut principles that are there in Genesis chapter 1 that we can all use. And so just to kind of recap, on day 1, we talked about in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth was without form and it had void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the darkness from the light, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And so we talked about how we looked at heaven and earth, and heaven being like mindset, representing mindset, and earth representing action. And we talked about when something doesn't have structure, we need to add structure to it so that we have something systematically to build. And when it's void and empty, we need to fill it up through particular steps. Talked about how on the surface of things, we have basic actions that we can take. But if we look at the deeper level things, those deeper things are more advanced actions that perhaps will come later in our journey. And we also talked about light and darkness, and how light is those things that we know. It's what we know right now. And darkness are things that we are yet to grow into. And so day by day, we've been moving through. Yesterday, we talked about what the Bible said on day 6, where it said that God said, let us make man, male and female, in our image and after our likeness. And talked about having the image and identity of God given to us. Talked about how everything reproduces after its own kind, and how fruit reproduces after its kind, and how cattle reproduces after its kind, and birds reproduce after their kind. But God would say, let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness, and let mankind, all of mankind, have authority and dominion in the earth, right? And so we talked about how in order to have dominion, in order to rule over something, you must first identify that you have a domain. You have a gift of genius, something to give and share with the world. You have work to do. You have an assignment to fulfill. You have purpose. And you don't need to minimize that. It might not be the same as someone else. It might not seem all that glamorous. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about how glamorous it looks. Worry about and think about how to master the thing that you are good at. And sometimes the thing that we're good at, we can be blind to our own brilliance and not see it because we do it so naturally. You might be a person that is just always encouraging other people. And you do it so naturally, and you might think like, well, what can I do with this kind of gift? What can I do with this kind of gift of genius? Well, you might be a person that could write greeting cards, or you could create the wording that goes with great commercials, or whatever it might be. But there is a space for you. There is room for you to operate. And so you never need to diminish the thing that you do so naturally, so well. There's a space for you. There is a domain for you. And you're not just supposed to exist in this domain. You are supposed to dominate it. And out of that, in the Bible, it says that God told mankind, all of mankind, to be fruitful and to multiply and replenish and subdue and have dominion. And so we talked about being fruitful. And what does that mean? It means that if you look at each one of us, we are all, let's say, like trees, the imagery of trees that are to bear fruit. When we are holding back our gift, when we are keeping within us that thing that we could do to make an impact in the world, we're not being fruitful. We're being stingy. But when we make that change and we decide, you know what, I'm going to start working this thing and bring it out, then we start to bear fruit. And then people start to recognize us. You know, a tree by the fruit that it bears. People will start to recognize you by your fruit. They'll know, oh, that person is so good with technology, or that person is so good with caregiving, and that person is so good with working with animals. Whatever it is that you do, you will start to be known by what it is that you do. We know trees by their fruit. And within those trees and within the fruit, there are seeds. That's what allows us to reproduce after our own kind, to duplicate and to multiply. When we start to give our gift, there starts to be this replenishment. We start to have systems where we can start doing it over and over again. We become more and more efficient so that our gift can continue to make it out into the world. And so you might write down something and create a manual or create a book or create videos, and then people are able to access it and see it. And now you're starting to multiply yourself in different places. Let me just tell you, in the world right now, we all have this opportunity to multiply ourselves because of this thing called technology. You can take your genius and your brilliance, record a video, put it up somewhere, and someone can watch it at any time of the day. You become 24/7 available without you always having to be there. Right? Let me give you a little way that this works. So, it's probably a good while ago now. My kids were young. When my children were young, I did this thing. I said, listen, I'm going to teach you how to clean the kitchen. But I have three children. I said, I'm going to teach the oldest, but I'm not going to keep repeating this process. We're going to have a manual. We're going to have a process, and I'm going to hand it after we get it all calculated and laid out. Then boom, here it is. And from here on out, you teach those other ones, right? Like, I'm not going to keep on showing up to do this teaching over and over again and show you how to mop the floor. And I had it down to a science. I said, okay, you mop right here, you move the bucket over 5 squares, then you mop the next 5, and then you move it. And I said, okay, now I needed to duplicate myself, because the best of me was not meant to be sitting there explaining how to mop the floor. Like, no, this is something that your older sister can do. I don't need to do it anymore. You start multiplying yourself. You start duplicating yourself. Now, if I was doing it, I would just shoot a video and boom, they could watch it. And so some of you parents, you might be thinking, yeah, you know what? I can shoot a video and not have to keep repeating myself to this child that is not listening. I'm going to keep sending, you can send your child to your own YouTube channel. Parent, like, put the instructions right there. This is how you do it. I'm not repeating myself again. Go to the link in my bio, child, and watch it. But, this is some stuff that is actually practical that you could do. When you are mastering your domain, your home can be your domain. A relationship can be your domain. Anywhere you are can be your domain. And you can start multiplying yourself in your gifts, in your abilities, in your talents, in different ways. Right? You want your relationship to be lasting and thriving. Back in the day, some of us, we used to write love notes. Hey, that was a way of duplicating ourselves, multiplying ourselves. And so we move through that. And what that allows us to do when we're multiplying, it allows us to be able to replenish places that are being depleted. See, when we start to give our gift and we can multiply it over and over again, it starts to replenish. When something is being drained, we, by giving, can now replenish it. And when we replenish something over and over and over again, what we do then is what the Bible says is subdue, which means we begin to control that environment, meaning that we're cornering the market, to use a business term. You become the go-to, you become the expert, you become the one that your spouse is looking for. Like, I just love my spouse because I can always count on them to be the one that I need. See, we're filling up what place might be void. And so when there is something that's being depleted, if it keeps being depleted, then it ends up being void. But we're not meant to have void all around us. We are meant to bring things to completion and wholeness, which brings us to day 7. And it says this. In Genesis chapter 2, it says, thus heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from his work which God created and made. Now, why does this all go together? Because just like I was saying, when we get into this place, the assignment in life, when we're doing what we're called to do, when we are being fruitful and multiplying and replenishing and subduing, controlling the market, being the one that is the expert and having our expertise and having dominion in our activities, then after all that is said and done, we do what God did. We take a rest. See, your life isn't meant to just be, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. No, at a certain point, you need to take a rest. You need to rest yourself. You need to stop what you've been doing and look at what you've made whole, made complete, and say, I need to celebrate. I need to celebrate my efforts. I need to celebrate the completion. I don't need to just go from one thing into another thing, because when we do that, what happens is we miss the value in our work. We're not taking time to recognize that what we've done has been good. And in the Bible, it said it was very good. When God finished with his work, he said it was very good. And so when you go through this process and you are seeing your vision and you're executing on it and you're being fruitful and you're multiplying and you're replenishing and serving your gift to others and you're subduing and you're controlling this environment and this atmosphere and you're doing it with excellence, having dominion, you need to stop, celebrate. It says that God ended his work. He didn't just stop because he was like, oh, I'm tired, I'm done. No. The work was ended because it was complete. It's like there's no more void. Now there is a structure. Things are in order. See that when you bring things in order and when you have the structure and when there's no void, there's no lack, then you end it. You say, no, this thing is whole. I have made it whole. I have made it complete. My energies and my efforts and my gift of genius inserted into this environment has brought this thing to a place of wholeness. And you have a gift of genius that can be applied to many areas. There are people, there are environments, there are atmospheres that need you to show up with your gift and make it whole. There are some things lacking. There's some information that might be missing. There's something about you. When you show up in the environment, you make a difference. And you don't need to downplay it just because it's easy and natural for you. No, you need to lean into that and you need to master it. Dominion is about having authority and mastery and being exceptional in a particular way. And when you do that, when you work in that space, you don't have to worry about taking a break thinking like, oh, I need to just keep going. I need to just be in 24/7 grind mode. No, you need to rest. You need to sit back for a second. Look at the work that you have done. Look at the blessing of it and say, this moment, my moment of rest, is a sanctified moment. I'm setting aside time for myself to sit and reflect on the goodness that has come from my life. I need to see for a few minutes at least what I've accomplished. I need to see what I've done. I need to see my work. I need to recognize it and evaluate it for the good that it is. I need to celebrate this moment because this is good. It said God sanctified the 7th day, this day of rest, and blessed it. There's a blessing in your rest. The blessing will help you to be replenished. The blessing will help you to be refreshed. The blessing will help you to revive your own creativity and your own genius. Why? Because after you finish that work, and you get to your 7th day of rest, your 8th day is also a first day. And things start over again. And you need to work. And you need to get going again. And there's something else for you to fulfill. But if you constantly keep going and you never slow down and you never rest and you never celebrate what you've done, there's a good chance that you'll begin to malfunction. There's a good chance if you and the person you're in relationship with are just constantly on the go, 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 and you're constantly doing and constantly making the house right, and you're constantly just striving for that next thing. If you never take some time, there's a good chance you're going to find that your relationship is starting to crumble, starting to fall apart. It's not as connected as it once was. If you're constantly going and you never sit and rest, something will go wrong. If you're constantly exercising and you never rest, there's a good chance that you're going to get hurt, because it is in the rest that we get stronger. It is in the rest that our body heals. It's in the rest that our mind is able to heal and be refreshed, and new creative thoughts are able to be born. It is in the rest. It is not always in the go. Sometimes you just have to pause. And in the silence, you can hear. And so as you keep on like going through life, and I'll tell you, last year I went through a stretch for a few months where, and I've shared this before, where I know I was being burnt out. I was being creatively, I was just being burnt out because I was just going. Like, I was wanting to serve. I was trying to make an impact anywhere I could and everywhere I went so that people's lives would be impacted. I wanted to serve my gift of genius just as much as I possibly could. And guess what? In doing so, while it was a noble thing, I was still being burnt out because it costs you something to be creative. Just because you, and I say this specifically to creative people that are working a lot in their minds, because you need to be on guard too. Just because you are working and it's all happening kind of like in the invisible is in your mind, don't think that that's not taking a toll on you. Your mind is working just as much as somebody's body is working, and your mind can get burnt out too, because you're strategizing a lot of things. And I was sharing how when I sit and I'm being creative and I'm thinking and creating content, I'm thinking about a lot of things. I'm thinking about people that I don't necessarily know on a personal basis, but I'm thinking of a way to impact their life through words, through an atmosphere, through a picture. And so that takes some thought, because I'm wondering about that delivery. How can I say the thing, and how can I convey the message so that this thing passes through this person's doubts and their limiting beliefs, and it can get to the heart of this person so that they'll take action and change their life, that they'll go for the dream that's been inside of them, that they'll start the relationship, that they'll start the business, that they'll believe that they have a purpose. How can I bypass their objections in 15, 20 seconds and deliver this message to them? That doesn't just happen, right? No different than, you don't just think of a building and then all of a sudden the building is up. That's not the way it works. There's effort. Your gift of genius, while it is your gift of genius, is still going to require something of you. It is still going to cost you something energetically, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's going to cost you. You will pay the price to serve your gift. Think about that. You are paying the price to serve your gift. And so while you are thinking and strategizing and going through this process of giving and delivering your best self, understand there has to be a point where you take a break, where you have rest. For months on end, I was trying. And the more I created content, the more empty my cup was. I was going deeper into a deficit by continuing to create, and I had to pull back so that I could be refreshed. And I had to start looking at my entire life like, okay, where am I leaking? Where am I leaking fuel? What's going on? Then I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, you had surgery at the beginning of the year. You haven't been as physically active and physically fit as you can be. You haven't been lifting weights. Your nutrition has been not nutritious. Look, I'm keeping it real. I'm going to keep it so real. There are times like when I go to eat, like I'm going to eat food, like I'll pray for my food. I'll, pray over my food. There were times, and I typically will say something to the extent of like, Father, thank you for this food. Ask that you bless it to be nourishment to my body, right? I'll say that often. But check this out. There was a point that there's some stuff that I was eating. I'm like, I'm not praying for this to be nourishment to my body. This is a donut. This is not going to nourish me. Like, stop it. This is a donut, right? Like, I'm just like, thank you for this donut. I'm not going to ask you to nourish. It's not nourishment. I know that. I'm not even trying to ask heaven to bless this to be nourishment. It's a donut, and it's not good for me. But but the point is, when you get into habits and routines and things that are not as healthy, right? You'll burn out. And you'll be wondering, like, what happened? So I encourage you on your days of rest, in those times, in those moments, then you begin to evaluate your life. You're like, okay, let me make sure that my boundaries are secure. Let me make sure that I have a structure around me that is going to keep me healthy, that I am taking care of me even as I am serving. Let me make sure that I am plugging the holes, making sure everything is fine. And that happens when you take some rest. You might take some rest and find out that you're tired. I needed to take some rest to find out I need to change my schedule. I need to do some things differently. Sometimes, and I was guilty of this a lot last year, and I said it to some people that are close to me. I said, I feel like I'm trying to change the tire while the car is moving. And so you get that image of, wait, the car is moving and you're trying to change the tire? Like, that's crazy. And it was. And it will deplete you. And so you need that rest. You need that time. I'm like, if God can take rest because the work has been completed, then we need to do that. Take a page out of that book. Sanctify the time. Set it apart. Set it apart as, this is my time for rest. Let it be something that people know not to bother you. No. That's their rest time right there. Don't even bother calling. They're going to take that time and they're not going to answer. And feel no guilt about it. You don't need someone's permission for you to take rest. You need to tell people, no, I need this, and so that everybody else is just going to have to deal with it. Right? It's not about somebody else granting you permission to rest. No. You are serving your life. You are giving. You are giving your gift of genius to the world and replenishing some aspect of this world. The world needs you to take rest. And so I would just encourage you to create this space early at the beginning of this year. Create this space, create this mindset that I will work, I will serve, I will create structures, I will have this in my life, and I am going to take a rest before I burn out. Like, think about it like this. You might, if you drive a car, at some point the fuel tank is going to go, down, right? Well, oftentimes when I'm talking to people about relationships, I present this idea. I say, look, just pretend that 3/4 full or half a tank is empty. And so if you get to 3/4 of the way full, if you've burned off a quarter of gas, you can fill it back up. You don't have to let it go all the way down to the red. You don't have to let yourself get all the way burnt out, because from that place, then you're going to have to spend so much more in that moment to get it back. No, if you keep an eye on yourself and, oh, I'm dropping down, let me make sure I take care of myself. Let me make sure I'm replenished. Let me get in a habit and a routine daily where I'll celebrate my efforts. I'm going to shut these phones down. I'm going to go quiet and I'm going to go to bed. My phone, 9:00. Like all the dinging and ringing, all that stuff goes off. Like there are no more alerts. No, I don't need it dinging all night long. Sometimes you have to fight for your own peace of mind. your own well-being. And then set a timer. Don't let it come on first thing in the morning either. Like, no, my phone doesn't, not until this time. I'm not letting it turn on. Like, create your boundaries. You are worth that. And what it'll do is it'll put you in a pattern where you recognize that rest and replenishing yourself and being refreshed is important. And so I encourage you to do that. And so with that, that's it. Day 7, we're bringing it to completion, right? We bring it to completion. This thing is whole. We have completed 7 days together. And so I pray this was a blessing to you this week. If you haven't caught it all, you can go to my YouTube at B.A. Shepherd. That's my YouTube channel, 2 P's ARD. You can check me out there and see all 7 days. But this day 7 is about you serving your gift of genius, but then taking rest. And so with that, let me just close us up with a prayer and just bless you as we go. Father, thank you for this tremendous time of being together this week. Thank you for the opportunities to serve and share with each one that has been here all week long. Those that have been on live, those that are a part of Team Replay. I thank you for all of them. Thank you for their presence and the blessing of their presence. And as we are bringing this particular training to a close, I pray blessings upon each one, even as they align with your will, even as they do what it is that they're called to do, their assignment, as they discover it and begin to learn even more about themselves, and as they serve their gift of genius and find their atmosphere and begin filling it up with what it is that they do. I pray that you would bless them. I pray that you would bless them financially. I pray that you would bless them relationally in their health and their well-being. I pray that everywhere they apply principles of life and structure and boundaries, that you would bless them, that they would bear much fruit, that they would multiply, that they would replenish, that they would subdue, that they would have dominion, that love would abound in their homes, in their relationships. Wherever they go, let them be an example of light that illuminates the atmosphere. I pray that someone's courage will rise and they will see that they do have something to give. And even if it seems quirky or odd to them, I pray that they will just be their most quirky and odd self and serve their gift to this world, because the world needs quirky and odd. Don't let them play small. Let them push out into the deeper atmospheres and deeper environments and create deeper relationships. I pray that they will go all out in this year of 2023, and that it would be the best year that they have ever had in life. I pray that this is the beginning of their best days. I pray that these days would be greater than their former days. I pray that their dreams would not only be dreams, but it would be enough that caused them to take action. And in doing so, I pray that their life would be transformed, never again to look the same. And as we go, I thank you in advance for you saying yes to these prayers, and you saying yes to those that take action, and being in their presence, being in their midst, being around them, keeping them as they go forward, protecting them, shielding them. I thank you in advance for that. I thank you in advance for the angels of protection that you are encamped around us, the creativity that you've given us, and the capability to move forward. Pray blessings upon each one in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, day 7 in the books. You all have a fantastic evening. Make sure that you take rest, because your gift of genius needs you to do so, because your gift of genius is needed in this world. So refresh yourself, renew yourself, allow yourself to have that next thought that calls you into action. And in doing so, I pray that you are fruitful, that you multiply, that you replenish, that you subdue, and that you dominate whatever it is, that domain, whatever that domain you are called to dominate. I pray that you dominate that domain. Be blessed. I love you so much. I'm B.A. Shepherd, 2 P's, A-R-D, reminding you to be a shepherd. The world has enough sheep. Love you much. See ya.